There we are. There we are. Welcome to the live stream, ladies and gentlemen. My name is JT and you're watching Black Box Trading. We're back. We're back. Didn't produce any content over Token. Token 2049 was action packed, basically triple booked. I was triple booked for everything at all times. So didn't manage to do a live stream, but we're back. Bitcoin hasn't done a whole lot since our last live stream. So we'll dive into that today. We'll take a look at the rotation into alts. We'll take a look at your requests. So if there are specific projects that you want us to take a look at, leave them in the comments and we will take a look at them. But let's jump into the content. Let's take a look at the king of all crypto. That is Bitcoin. All right. So are we going to pull back? Are we going to pull back? The market is not yet convinced that we are indeed in a bull market. The market is not yet convinced that we are indeed going to be taking out all-time highs. The amount of negative comments that I have been getting in regards to my opinion saying that this move will result in an all-time high break proves to me that this move will result in an all-time high break. I'm getting a lot of hate for it. That is a really good sign. The last time I got this amount of hate was down at the 18K buy, which was the beginning of phase one of the bull market. Now we are getting an equal, if not more vicious amount of hate because of the illogical, the herd doesn't understand how it could be possible that we are heading into a bull market when recession is around the corner and a tariff war just started. They just cannot comprehend how that can be a reality. So the amount of hate that I'm getting is just further drilling home the point to me that we are entering phase two of the bull market. So let's dive into what that looks like. So we did lose the 7. So we're inside of this consolidation right here, looking at things on the daily chart. So we do have a potential pullback, but we've lost the 7 before on these initial impulse rallies. In fact, we rally up above the 7, get above all the moving averages, dip slightly below the 7, and then continue on our merry way. That's happened there. It also happened down here, got on top of the 7. This is actually a more this is a similar style of rally. Mind you, it did take out a prior macro high, but anyways, we got above it, dipped slightly below the 7, and then continued on our merry little way. Same over here. This one's a little bit more similar, except we're still below all the moving averages here. Actually, let's go back here. This one's probably most similar because this happened after a dip, and then we got chopped around the 7, and then it was a bit of a choppy mess actually. But anyways, we can dip below the 7. We can dip below the 7 is the TLDR, but we have plenty of support below us, which is good news because for the last couple of months here, we've had nothing but resistance above us. We have support here at the 200 at 90,000. We have support here at the 30-day moving average. The monthly average price is at 88, and we have support at the 50 moving average at 86.8. So it's looking good. Now, furthermore to all of that, we have one of our favorite signals coming into the market. Let me just change this back to the weekly. And we have a green wave, ladies and gentlemen. So yes, we have been very bullish since the 74K low. We've been very bullish on this move overall. And that's been in spite of the fact that the wave has been red. Now, we officially flipped our bias. We are all systems go. We are bullish. The wave has just flipped from red to green. Now, it's not right every time. It's not right every time. A little bit of a disclaimer. You can see during this consolidation, there was a red flip. It went from green to red and then red to green. But generally speaking, these are really good moves. So like the initial one out of the bear market, that wave from red to green kicked off a 56% rally. Again, over here, kicked off about a 10% rally. Nah, who cares? Over here, it kicked off a 60% rally. Over here, it kicked off a nice rally. Yeah, another 50% rally. So more often than not, and we can go even further back in time, but I'm not going to bore you with that. It's the same as far back as we go. More often than not, we're looking at about a 50% rally. About 70 to 80% of the time, this marks at least a 50% rally. So with that in mind, from here, we would be looking at $150,000 Bitcoin, just shy of $150,000 Bitcoin. The market is not prepared for that nonsense. The market is 100% convinced that the tariffs are going to collapse the market. They are 100% convinced that the recession is going to completely collapse the market, because nobody understands the correlation between money printing and asset valuations. They just don't get it. It's incomprehensible to them. They don't understand the fundamentals of money. They don't understand the difference between debasement and value. Value more or less stays the same, but when you debase the measuring stick, if you keep shortening them, if an apple is worth $1 and we increase the amount of dollars, the value of the apple is the same, but we have way more dollars now. The currency has been debased. Well, now the apple's worth $2 because it represents the value of the circulating supply. Nobody understands this concept. A shocking amount of people. If you're a Bitcoiner, you get it. Obviously, I'm not talking to the Bitcoiners of the crowd. I'm not talking to the crypto native people of the crowd. Most of the people that watch this channel understand that, but everybody is the vast majority of people don't understand this, which is why it's incomprehensible to them that negative news and negative fundamentals and negative economic measures could possibly result in asset prices going up. But inflation, you understand inflation. Everybody has, there's no argument there. We have inflation, right? What is inflation? The prices of things going up. So it shouldn't be that far-fetched. But anyways, I digress. Let's take a look at the weekly chart. And the weekly is up against a pretty strong resistance here on the RSI. So this is a weird number. I know it's a weird number. Believe me, I understand that it's a weird number, where we look around the 58 RSI. Now, the reason I do that is because it offers us support and resistance for bull markets and bear markets throughout history, really. When we're below it, price action is typically quite bearish when you're looking on the weekly chart. And why this level is nice is when you spend a considerable amount of time below it and you finally break free of it, you get really good price appreciation. So over here, back, entering phase 2, what did we do? We spent some time below it during the event that shall not be named on YouTube. We went up to the 58 level. We broke out of it. That kicked off phase 2 of the bull market. We then came down and retested it and bounced off of it, really accelerating into the most exciting part of the market cycle. Same thing over here. We got below it. It resulted in the double top. So as soon as we got above that 58 level, we put in our actual all-time high, even though it was a dead cat bounce, doesn't matter. It was a new all-time high. And then again over here, broke the trend of the bear market. Over here, massive acceleration into the all-time high break. And here we are again, right underneath it. Now, if we go take a look at the daily, we already broke past that. You can see the acceleration that took place as a result of breaking past that level, and we're coming down and retesting it. So I think that this move is a test. I don't think that we are going to break down to the level of the 200. I don't think we're going to break down to the level of the 30 or the 50 moving averages. I think that this is a test, and I think that this weekly candle will close green. It's a brand new candle. It's only 4 hours old. This weekly candle will close green. It will be a continuation candle that will likely close above $100,000. That's my prediction right now. I think that by the end of this week, Bitcoin will be at or above that $100,000 level. It's going to be like 99, or it's going to be 101, something like that. But it's going to be around that $100,000 level. Long story short, Bitcoin's going up, ladies and gentlemen, and nobody is prepared. Nobody is prepared for Bitcoin going up. Many people are sidelined. Let's take a look. Let's transition things into that sidelining, and let's take a look at Tether dominance. USDT.D. Now, I don't do this very often. You know that we focus mostly on Bitcoin dominance, but we'll take a peek. We'll take a peek at Tether dominance here. And Tether dominance is still consolidating, but we're at an upper end of a range. This is on the monthly. Let's go to the weekly. We're at the upper end of a range. Let me get some drawings out here. And we've got this kind of situation right here, this support / resistance flip. Let's put something like this down. So we're up against the resistance at Tether dominance. I think that we are going to break below this upwards sloping line of support. And that will be the kickoff. That will be the main event beginning inside of cryptocurrency. So we are trapped below it right now. We are trending down. You can see that we have high, low, lower high, lower low, lower high. The next thing that we would be looking for is a lower low. So the trend is already established. Lower low, lower high into a resistance, and then collapse of Tether dominance as the altcoin season goes into full swing. So Tether is still consolidating. We haven't seen that rotation of capital yet. We haven't seen the big money flowing into alts yet. And that shouldn't come as a surprise, as we talk about often. Bitcoin dominance is still climbing. Bitcoin dominance is still in an uptrend. You guys know this chart very, very well. Some people believe that we can get even as high as 70% dominance. And as the market continues to develop, I begin to agree with that more and more. I thought that kind of 65 was going to be where Bitcoin's topping out, but we're not showing characteristics in this chart that Bitcoin is topping out at 65 for Bitcoin dominance. So I think maybe we have some sort of a violent move up. And this plays into some of the price action that I've spoken about earlier in months ago. Actually, I haven't talked about this event for quite a few months now, but it's that one last, like, holy shit, why did I invest in altcoins moment where Bitcoin really starts to rip. And we are calling for a Bitcoin rip. I think that Bitcoin is really going to start accelerating in the next 2 to 6 weeks. And that's going to really push Bitcoin dominance up high. I think Bitcoin is going to start to break past its all-time high. I think it's going to rally up to the 140, 150 with exacerbated bullishness, even up to $200,000 very quickly. And the alts will not. The alts are going to be left behind. They will catch up. Alts are still playing catch up. They're not leading yet. Bitcoin is still the leading asset. But the alts, if you're an altcoin investor, you're going to be watching. If you're all in altcoins and you have no Bitcoin, I'm not trying to change your position or anything. I think it's too late for you to be doing portfolio adjustments, but you're going to be asking yourself, what the fuck did I do? Why did I do this? Because you're going to be, 70 to 90% down on your alts, and you're going to watch Bitcoin pumping aggressively and alts doing nothing. But don't fear, don't sway your decisions, don't reallocate. That's the final signal. That's the final signal for Bitcoin to go into the cryptocurrency market, to enter into phase 2. And that's when the alts really start to perform. So don't be surprised if you see something like this, where Bitcoin just shoots up to like 70, 72, 74, maybe even 75% dominance. And the alts actually, people jump out of alts. Many altcoin traders haven't seen this yet. I've seen it a few times where Bitcoin's pumping hard and people start dumping on their alts. Don't fall for that trap. That's probably going to be the signal to me to, rotate a little bit, rotate some of those sats into alts. So don't believe the narrative, because there will be narratives on Twitter to go with that. All the reasons why this altcoin cycle will not happen. They'll be like, this is a different cycle. Bitcoin is here's what I think is going to happen. What's going to happen as far as a narrative on Twitter is people are really going to start to say that altcoins only do well in good market conditions, and Bitcoin does well in both good and bad market conditions. That's going to be the narrative. They're going to say Bitcoin is, a tech stock in the good times, and Bitcoin is a safe haven in the bad times. But it's going to be very short-lived. As soon as the herd adopts that as a narrative, you'll know that that narrative is no longer valid, and that the rotation into altcoins is just around the corner. So, don't get scared out of your positions. I'm not saying reallocate. I'm not saying, buy Bitcoin now because it's going to pump and alts won't. I'm just saying don't be surprised to see this move up to $70,000 before that reversal, and you get your 30x in the altcoin season. So, thoughts on 21 Capital? Don't give a shit. I don't give a shit about MSTR. I don't give a shit about MSTY, and I absolutely do not give a shit about 21 Capital. If they do good for the space, great, fantastic. Will I be buying? Absolutely fucking not. Not a chance in hell. I'm not going to pay for counterparty risk. One of the things that I like most about cryptocurrencies, specifically Bitcoin, is there's no counterparty risk. There's no human. Do you trust humans? That's really what it boils down to. Do you trust humans? Are humans the type of, are humans prone to mistakes? Are humans prone to attacking other humans' ideas? If the answer to that is yes, then why bother with these companies? If 21 Capital does some good for Bitcoin, if they make a really good Bitcoin wallet, if they get Bitcoin regulation as to use Bitcoin as a currency pushed through at an accelerated rate, fantastic. It's good for Bitcoin. I'll hold the Bitcoin. If they're going to do good for Bitcoin, I'll hold the Bitcoin. I'm not going to hold 21 Capital stock. Fuck that. It's fiat shit. It's fiat shit coins. The suit coins are here, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget the mission. All right. We talked about tether dominance. Let's take a quick little peek here at the S&P. We didn't have much price action on the S&P over the weekend. Obviously, markets are closed, but I have to catch up on the S&P. And it looks as though we have broken above the level that we spoke about last stream. We have reclaimed the level of resistance that we were up against. Things are looking good. Bitcoin's going to continue to rise. And now we're waiting for a retest and a break of new all-time highs. Once you get those all-time high breaks, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. So all systems go, ladies and gentlemen. There's really nothing that I can point to. Like, everything's looking good. Bitcoin's looking fantastic. It's above all of the moving averages except for today being below the 7. We just flipped green. S&P is rallying and breaking its downtrend. NASDAQ still on a downtrend, to be fair, but sentiment is negative. I love it when sentiment is negative. There is no way for you to get a solid trade in when the herd is bullish. When the herd's bullish, you can't get a solid trade in, period. End of story. When the herd is bearish, boom, you got opportunity. And there is plenty of opportunity based off of what I can see with the narratives coming out of the herd right now. All right, let's quickly catch up with the chat. No man, hello from Thailand. Hello. Are you in Bangkok? Because I'll be moving to Bangkok for a bit. I'll probably have to go to some of the Bitcoin meetups in Bangkok. Bangkok's got some good Bitcoin meetups. So this isn't happening for a while. Yeah, that'll be like September, something like that. Couple months I'll be in Thailand. We'll have to meet at a Bitcoin meetup. Maxi, yo, what's up? Good morning from Norway. Nadimura. Oh man, that's tricky. But hello. Surviving Palamon, good afternoon. Jasper, hi everyone. It's 6 a.m. and I can't sleep anymore. Glad I caught this stream. Well, good morning to you, sir. Eric, GM. How was Token 2049? It was action packed. The parties were good. The side events were good. But it was a little bit different from Token 2049 in Singapore. I don't want to sound like unappreciative or anything, but like the side events in Token 2049 in Singapore were insane. They were crazy good. Really, really exciting, very fun side events. And the main event was kind of lame. Not gonna lie. The main event was kind of lame in Singapore. Now, in Dubai, it was the opposite. The main event in Dubai was really well done. They pulled it off beautifully. Yeah, it was really well executed event. Good speakers. I think my favorite talk was the CEO of Tether. That dude is hardcore. I have never heard that guy speak before. That guy has a place in my heart now, even though he's running Tether. But you know what? That dude is a hardcore Bitcoiner. So the Tether talk was really, really cool. Yeah, it was good. And the side events were good. They just weren't as crazy. They weren't as crazy as what was going on in Singapore. Hi from Thailand. Be good to meet up at an event. Yeah, like I said, Bangkok. Bangkok's got some good Bitcoin events, so we'll have to figure that out. All right, back into the charts, back into the TA. 50 of you watching, guys. Do me a favor. I'm not the best at self-promotion, but do me a favor and like, subscribe, retweet if you're on Twitter, share this if you're on YouTube. Supernova, welcome into the chat. Good to see you. Yeah, just do what you can. I know that the market doesn't really care. When you talk to normies, they have no interest. So, it's only so much that you can do. But yeah, once we start breaking past the all-time highs, don't forget about your boy. Because that's when everybody's going to be knocking on the door and DMing you on Facebook Messenger. Hey, how's it going? Haven't talked in a while. You just still into that Bitcoin thing? How do I get some Bitcoins? That is coming. Bitcoin on the 4-hour looking good. I guess we can start getting into some shit coins. Starting off with track. I don't think so. We're still below the excited line. What does that mean when we're below the excited line? It means we're not excited. When do we get excited? We get excited up here. Track's cool, but track's lame. Track's lame here. Below this line, track is lame. Oh God. Track is lamb. Track is lamb, everybody. Below this line, it's lamb. Above this line, we get excited. Ordinals are lamb. Ordinals are so lamb right now, but they will be coming back. Believe you me, mark my words, they're coming back. Like, because you're a friend. Yeah. Thanks, Supernova. Appreciate it. Do you have an opinion on the whole op return drama? Really good question, Satoshi's Corner. Really good question. And yes, I have opinions that are fluid and, well, I have ethical opinions. I'm basically on both sides. Long and short, I'm on both sides. So for those who don't know, there's actually a very heated situation that is happening inside of the Bitcoin community right now. So heated, in fact, that if it accelerates and more of the community decides to become more divided on this issue, it could actually result in a hard fork, which we haven't seen since Bitcoin Cash forked off of Bitcoin. Basically, the long and short of it is inside of a Bitcoin transaction, you can do little lines of code or, little messages. The messages can be code. The messages can just be messages. Even Satoshi wrote, Chancellor on the brink of a bailout. He wrote that on a Bitcoin transaction. So there's always been an area inside of a Bitcoin transaction, inside of a Bitcoin block, where you can write messages. But it's been limited to how much you can write. And it's been limited to 80 bytes of data. Very, very small amount of data. Tiny. 80 bytes is nothing. We usually talk in kilobytes, megabytes. 80 bytes is literally nothing from a computational standpoint. And since Taproot came on board, the ability for you to reference the message data as code became a thing. And what was born out of that was ordinals. Ordinals were not possible before Taproot. And with the programmability and reference of the message data, you could do ordinals. But we're going to classify it not as ordinals. We're going to classify it as non-monetary data. Because that's what it is. It's non-monetary data. Bitcoin is a monetary network, and what's being proposed, not even proposed, what's being pushed through is the ability for non-monetary data to be added to Bitcoin. So there's two sides to this. Let me know if you guys want me to move on from this. I don't know. 50 people are still watching, so there's a little bit of interest, but okay, we'll get into it. And while we talk about it, we'll make sure that the Bitcoin price is up. So there's two ways to look at this. Now, you can look at it as Bitcoin is strictly a monetary network, and it should only be used to process monetary transactions. And I generally agree with that. What Bitcoin Core, the core development team, is planning on doing on the next Bitcoin update is they are going to remove the limit, the 80 byte limit. They're going to remove the 80 byte limit in the op return field of Bitcoin, which is going to allow for much more data to be put into the op return field of a Bitcoin transaction. Now, one coin that has an extremely large op return field is Ethereum. Smart contracts are written in, it's not, I'm blending terminology here, but I'm just trying to make it understandable. Smart contracts are written on op return data, basically. So we would be adding the ability for Bitcoin smart contracts, but we would also be adding the ability for the Bitcoin network to be spammed with things that are not valuable. So the argument can be made that if we want Bitcoin to reach the next level, we should increase its ability to have functionality. I think that there really isn't an argument to say that Bitcoin shouldn't have more programmability. The problem is with Ethereum has its own coding language, and it doesn't have a spam problem. Whereas Bitcoin doesn't. So Bitcoin doesn't have a coding language. You can just code on Bitcoin in JSON. You can code in binary. You can code in Rust. You can do anything. But Ethereum, you have to follow the correct syntax of the Solidity smart contract language. So you don't have a spam problem. So Bitcoin does have a spam problem because you can put, lines of code on there that need to be housed forever on people's nodes. I have a node. I don't know if you can see it there. No, you can't really see it there. Where is it? Anyways, whatever. You can't see it. Forever. It's permanently put on other users' nodes. Now, a great example that Mechanic did to kind of explain why this is a problem is we have spam filters on our email, right? You don't want to get a bunch of spam sent to your email address. And you don't want to have a bunch of spam emails that you are forced to hold forever. If you get a spam email, what do? You delete it, or you send it to the spam folder. Automatically, it's filtering out spam, and then once in a while, you go and delete it all. But with Bitcoin, it's different because the spam is being sent to your node, and you are forced to hold it forever. It's a double-edged sword because that spam can also be smart contracts. That spam can also be a contract to a house, ownership of a house. That spam can be ownership of a digital ID. There's a lot of good use cases that can come out of that spam, but it does create an attack vector for Bitcoin. Now Bitcoin can be attacked. If somebody has enough money and they want to fill up every block with useless data, it would be very expensive. It would be incredibly expensive, but they could do it. And if they made Bitcoin so expensive that everybody stopped using it, or they basically hold the network hostage, this could be a problem. Now, all that's well and good because before you had the option to just set the op return limit to the Bitcoin nodes, and that was fine. That was fine. Like, for example, I'm actually a fan of ordinals. I've got a shit ton of ordinals. So when the option for me came about to reduce my op return data limit from 80 bytes to 40 bytes, I did not opt to put it to 40 bytes because I was like, well, I got ordinals. I want to support the ordinal community. Let's just let them spam. But where I have a real problem with what Bitcoin Core is doing is with this update, they are removing the limit. So there's no limit. There's no 80 megabyte limit, but they're also removing the ability for the node operator to choose what the limit is. And that's the biggest problem that I have. That is not okay. I don't care. Like, if we want to create a world where Bitcoin smart contracts exist, if we want to create a world where Bitcoin has increased data and somebody wants to pay for that data to be permanently stored on the blockchain, I don't have a problem with that. But I have a huge problem with Core taking away features and functionalities that allows the user, the node operator, to decide what they want to store. I have a big problem with that. And it doesn't make sense why they are doing that. It makes sense to remove the limit. Sure, go ahead. Or increase the limit. Move it from 180 to move it from 80 to 160, or move it from 80 to 500. I don't care. But to remove the ability for the node operator to choose is a bad move. It's a really bad move. and I do not agree at all with that particular part of it. Unless I'm missing something, unless there's a key piece of information that I'm not processing, I don't see why you would remove that ability for the node operator, the user, to choose which transactions they want to filter out and post to the mempool. If your ethos, that's what Bitcoin is. Bitcoin is like consensus of many minds. If I'm gonna have to wrap this up, but if Bitcoin is, if you are a person who only uses Bitcoin for its monetary transactional value, you should have the choice to remove anybody that's choosing to not use it that way. And that's freedom, in my opinion. In my opinion, freedom is the ability to have choices. And I'm not just talking Bitcoin. I'm not just talking privacy. I'm talking about everything in life. When you have choices, you're free. Bitcoin is freedom tech. You should not be removing freedoms from freedom tech. So I'll just wrap it up there. So my opinion is, I don't think that it's a good idea to remove that ability for the node operators to choose. If you want to set it to a default where it's unlimited, go right ahead. But to remove the ability to store that information, I think is very dangerous. And I'll leave it at that. CRV got a nice move. Ordinals and runes lagging behind alts. Also, liquidity goes away first from the sector. Do you agree? Yep. It's the highest risk. It's the least likely to hold on to liquidity for numerous reasons. There's no incentives for liquidity in runes and ordinals because runes and ordinals don't use liquidity pools, which is great. Liquidity pools are a scam. I would love it if the world did not use liquidity pools at all. Liquidity pools are 100% a scam. But the thing about liquidity pools is they have yield built into them. So liquidity is stickier in a liquidity pool. Ordinals, runes, no liquidity pool. That means when there's attention, there's volume. When there's a lack of attention, there's no volume whatsoever. But it makes it impossible to rug. You can't rug a rune. It's impossible. It doesn't have a liquidity pool. It's unruggable. It can die, but it can't be rugged. So yeah, it's just, I agree. They lag behind alts. It's the highest risk sector in the game. So like Bitcoin is the least risky in cryptocurrency. So liquidity goes to Bitcoin first, then it goes to projects that are seen to be less risky, slightly more risky. So top 20, top 50, then it goes to top 50 to top 100. Then we're in degen season. Then we're in meme coin season. Then we're in the real thick weeds of decentralized finance. And you find yourself, minting runes and doing ordinals and all of that stuff. So they'll be the last to pump. They'll be the last to pump for sure. I think it should be left as is. A good option to run knots, but need more developers. If something happens to Luke, we'd be in trouble. Yeah. I think all functionality of Bitcoin should be built on secondary layers, and Bitcoin should be left as a base settlement layer. I've always thought this. This has been my stance forever. Now, the counter argument is we have been seeing really, really low transaction throughput on the network. I'm not going to, this isn't going to turn into a 10-minute rant. Don't worry. We've seen orphaned blocks. Actually, let's just take a look. Let's just take a look at mempool.space right now and see what the Bitcoin blockchain looks like. How many blocks do we have? Oops. Okay, so they're all full now. We had more than one occasion where these blocks were empty. You would have, the next block was like a third of the way filled. If we go back, look at all these. See these blocks that aren't filled? We had empty blocks. many empty blocks or just half filled blocks. And that was happening more and more. Now, the thing with that is that has not happened in a very long time. That hasn't happened since like 2018. So the other argument is, well, maybe we need to add more incentive for block space. And I think that's the angle that Bitcoin Core is taking. They want to increase the ability for, they want to increase the demand for block space. But they are playing with a dangerous, game here, because you are creating an attack vector for Bitcoin. And Bitcoin transactions can become extremely expensive. I'm not talking like $20, $30, $40 a transaction. I'm talking $200, $300, $1,000 per transaction if things get really silly. So we'll see. We'll see. Mind you, those levels of expensive blocks would prevent spam. Nobody would be spamming. It would be all value-oriented transactions. There are a lot of arguments for the Bitcoin ecosystem, hardly acceptable to new users due to their lack of knowledge. Yeah. I mean, most new users don't even run a node. I think there's like 80,000 nodes out there. There's way more than 80,000 people with a Bitcoin wallet. What do you think can be this cycle's shiny new gem for retail? I don't know. Because it doesn't exist yet. That's what makes it shiny and new. That's what makes it exciting. So there will be something. I don't think it's going to be any narrative that already exists. It's not going to be DeFi. It's not going to be gaming. It's not going to be NFTs. It's not going to be anything that's already existed. I could see digital matter theory getting a little bit of excitement in the market. But ultimately, you know what I think it's going to be, actually? And I've said this a few times. It's going to be stocks. It's going to be stocks. This market is and that's so sad. I know, like, to the people who have been in this market for a while, to the DeFi enthusiasts, you got to read the writing that's on the wall. When you look around, like, even in the Bitcoin community, half of the Bitcoiners now are MicroStrategy hodlers. Half of the Bitcoiners are buying MSTY. Half of the Bitcoiners are going to be buying 21 Capital. These Bitcoiners are not Bitcoiners. They are using traditional financial applications. They're connecting their online banking, and they're getting Bitcoin exposure. GameStop is going to have Bitcoin on the balance sheet. Other stocks are going to have Bitcoin on the balance sheet. So is it going to be a new shiny thing? No, but I can absolutely see a retail-driven frenzy, mania inside of the stock market. And I've said this many, many times. I think that we're going to see an altcoin season. We'll see a normal altcoin season, but I think you're going to see a ton of volume and a ton of retail demand on the New York Stock Exchange. As unsexy as that is, that's the market now. That's the crowd. That's the people. We have so much interest on the institutional side coming from the stock market, coming from Wall Street, that where is that liquidity going to go? It's going to go to Wall Street. It's not going to smart contracts. It's not going to DeFi. You're going to log into your Merrill Lynch account and buy some shit coins on the stock market. That's what I think is going to be the next shiny new thing. How's ETH BTC doing? Can it go any lower? How low can it go? How low can it go? Man, it's exceeded my expectations for sure. I was like, ETH is going to make it to 3 million sats. I cannot believe. People thought I was a fucking troll. They thought I was just a troll when I said 3 million sats per ETH. And here we are at 1.9 million sats per ETH. A low of 1.7 million sats per ETH. Yikes. Yikes. Pour one out for the F heads. But I mean, it can't go lower than this, right? It can't go lower than 1.6 million sats per ETH. If it did, then it truly is dead. If Ethereum breaches that 1.6 million sats per ETH, then ETH truly is dead. It will go up in phase 2. Don't worry. It'll go up in phase 2. But that's your opportunity to get the fuck out. Curve got a nice move. I guess somewhat. It's moving up in the direction that we're saying it'll go. This is the backup. Once it gets above 85 cents, it'll start to accelerate, I think. It's not far. How's XRP doing? We're still bearish on XRP. Still range bound. Same thing with Tron. Tron still sucks. Doge still sucks. Ooh, yucky Doge. What about Ethereum layer 2s? Horrendous. Ondo. Oof, yucky. Disgusting. Ondo. I mean, it's theoretically at a support, but yeah, you just got to wait for that rotation. Here's the thing, like on altcoin rotation, Ondo will be like up here and you'll feel like you missed it. But when Bitcoin dominance is falling, like you're absolutely underestimating what can happen. When Bitcoin dominance does this, no joke, you'll get a 30 freaking X. Like those are the top coins that are going to do a 30X. You go further on down the road, you can maybe even tack on a 0 to this. Now, that's not financial advice at all. That is just me explaining how crazy the market can get. You should not ever go into a trade expecting a 300X ever. But across the board, a move from, say, 70% dominance down to 40% dominance will absolutely result in approximately a 30X across the board in major alts. So you will not care that Ondo's way up here. You won't. It can be up here and it's still going to do a 30X. So like, don't try and nail the bottom for these things is my word of advice, because trying to nail the bottom, it can still go down. And now your position, by the time it actually turns around, you would have been better off just, you're better off going when it's going up. It's got to be going up because you know your initial position's multiplier effect. You don't know the multiplier effect when you're all the way down here because it can keep going. If it goes down 50%, well, now your multiplier effect got cut in half. And then if it does it again, well, now your multiplier effect got cut down to 20% of what you initially had. So if you're putting $1,000 in, well, you basically just put $200 in, but you lost $1,000 worth of multiplier effect. I hope that makes sense. Anyways, putting $1,000 in when it's going up and Bitcoin dominance is falling and we're in phase 2, you know that it's a multiplier effect on $1,000. Anyways, would you mind sharing your streaming setup with us? Microphone, audio interface, Rode, microphone, and OBS, just standard OBS, the open source one. Sui, how's Sui doing? Oh, we're back to bearish. Back to bearish. We were bullish briefly, but we're back below the line in the sand. So again, it's not time. It's not time. Not yet. Not yet. Let's finish things off with Bitcoin, and then we'll get out of here. So what am I expecting for Bitcoin? I'm expecting up only. I'm still expecting up only. This daily candle. Now, people get confused when I say up only, and then we have a red day. Like, up only means you're not going to get deep pullbacks. And the overall trend is up. The order books have more bids than they do asks. The demand is higher than supply. It is much easier for the price of Bitcoin to get marked up in price than it is for Bitcoin to get marked down. This move will result in an all-time high break. I think by the end of this week, we will be above $100,000. And how we get there over the next couple days is irrelevant to me. We can head down to the 200. We can go down to 90. We can go down to 88. I don't care. Or we can stay right here and just blast off from this moment, from the point at which I close the stream onwards. It doesn't matter. I think however we get to the weekly close, I think that this weekly close will be a green candle. We're already a green candle. I think it's going to stay a green candle, and I think that green candle will be above $100,000. But yeah, so don't get lost in the day-to-day is my advice. Like, if you are new to this market and you are sidelined, if you're in cash or, God forbid, you are short, you need a perspective shift, in my opinion, because we're in a bull market. And yeah, you can chop and change and have fun on the small time frames, yada, yada, yada. But if your portfolio is not weighted to a Bitcoin bull market, then you have taken some really poor advice, or you've guided yourself in a very poor way, and you might want to consider reevaluating. I can't tell you what to do, but just take your own thesis and take my thesis and come up with all the reasons why you're wrong, and come up with all the reasons why I'm wrong, and put them together to try and figure out what you believe is right. And I think you'll find that there are many more reasons to be bullish on this market than there are to be bearish on it. And I will leave you with that. But before we head out, please go check out blackbox.pro, BLKBöX.pro. Sign up for your free Bitcoin trading bot. But this also grants you access into the free Discord server where we are trading all of our setups, all of our entries, our exits, our take profits. If you don't know anything about trading crypto and you want to get a better understanding of how to trade the cycles and how to maximize the cycles, come in there. We've got a lot of free resources for you. We have automated strategies that are designed to trade the cycles. And it's all free. All that we ask is that you sign up with our partnered exchanges. If you take a trade on a centralized exchange, that you take that trade on one of our partners, and that's it. That's the whole deal. If you take a trade, do so on our partner exchanges. That's it. It's a pretty fair deal. So we will see you guys in there. It's time to get bull run ready. And until next time, please trade safe. It is a jungle out there. Peace.